Okay, I think we're there. Good. Let's go to prayer for a moment and ask our Father to watch over our time and our session. And we do thank you so much, Father, that we can call you Father, that we're your children. And we just ask you, Father, to guide us in our time. Show us your will. Help each of us be doing your will where you have us planted in your world. And just pray that you'll just continue to empower us by your Holy Spirit to give us your instructions and your wisdom and your enabling and all that you do, Lord, to accomplish your purposes through us here in your world. I just ask you to watch over the technology that makes these sessions possible. Just pray that all the computer lines and airways and devices, that everything will just work perfectly, and that we will just continue to be able to gain what you want us to gain through our time together and throughout this whole course. We just pray these things in your name, Jesus, and for your honor. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Why don't we just take a minute and introduce ourselves so we can kind of hear each other's voices. And why don't we start with you, Paula? Just tell us who you are and where you're from.
Yes, sure. I'm Paula Togni from South Brazil, and I'm glad to be here. I'm married. I know a couple of people from this team. I'm married. I have 2 girls, as I said. I'm a business consultant in my country, and I lead the Christian business ministry in our city. That's something pretty new because we don't talk about theology of work at all in Brazil.
Right.
And I also lead, and I'm opening an NGO for women in leadership. Our city is not that big in terms of evangelicals, and we are trying to get the Christians together as much as possible.
All right.
And my passion, right, for the past 3 years I have been working with my husband at the slum. We call favelas in Brazil.
Okay.
Shanty towns, is that right?
That sounds good. Yes.
Okay. I'm trying to improve my English, by the way, but anyways.
Okay.
And we have like a vocational program with teenagers. And now we are going to start working with income generation with moms. We have like about 30 people, 30 teenagers that we do computer skills, math, Portuguese. But our plan is to bring hope and let them away from drugs.
Right. Oh, that's wonderful, Paula. Great ministry. Let's see, on my screen, Tim, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah, glad to be here. So the last time I got to be with Paula, we were eating lunch together in Pittsburgh. So I remember her. We were in the immersion experience with Dr. Brian McCabe in the fall. That would have been October. So that was a great time. But glad to be here with everybody. This is my first time since that immersion experience, which was really life-changing for me and one of the best college experiences I've ever had at any university in 20 years. Great experience in Pittsburgh. Loved the immersion experience. Also was I remember a class with Jeremy and maybe a couple others, but definitely glad to be here. I live in Ohio, which is right near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So on the Ohio-Pennsylvania border. I got my bachelor's at Liberty University and also one at Vision International University, then got the MBA here at Bakke, and now I'm in the DTL program. I have 2 children. A son who's 16, a daughter who's 13. They're highly involved in their activities and keep me pretty busy. I do some local sports broadcasting here. I'm involved in some ministry. My mom's actually a a small church pastor
Mm.
at a local, it's actually a rural area here where we live. And my full-time job is strategic planning, as well as some team development and business consulting with nonprofits, for-profits, some churches and different organizations around my region. So that's kind of what I do on the day-to-day.
All right. Thanks, Tim. Tammy,
Yeah.
over in Nigeria, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, everybody. Hi. My name is Tammy Siloko. I live in Nigeria, in Abuja, the capital city of Nigeria. I'm a church pastor and a church planter. And I planted several churches. But the present church I am in, I planted it 10 years ago and nurtured it to the level it is now. So I've been here for 10 years. And I'm married with 3 kids, 12, 9, and 6. I'm an educator. I trained as an educationist, and now I'm a pastor for about 15 years. So
right.
Good to be in this class. Good to meet all of you. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Tammy. Let's see, Melissa, why don't you introduce yourself? I don't have you on my list. You must have joined the class a little later.
Yes, I'm from Colorado, Boulder, Colorado, and I'm happy to see some familiar faces. Hi, Paula. I met Whitney Doherty, by the way. We had a long conversation for about 2 hours. I was interviewing her. Anyways, so I'm married for 29 years, coming up on 30, and I have 2 kids in college. One's in medical school and one's in graduate school for architecture. And my husband and I are ghostwriters. We do this in partnership. And also I work for other ministries and organizations as their content manager. I have an arrangement so that I do that also rather full time. And that's my life. Glad to be here. Nice to meet everyone.
Thank you, Melissa. Let's see, Kevin, looks like you're over in Michigan. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, welcome, or I should say hi to everybody. I'm actually a variety of different things. I'm a director of order fulfillment at a company called Steelcase, which is the largest office furniture manufacturer in the world. So I lead that organization. That is, we got most of the people here, but there's a number of people in Monterrey, Mexico. I'm part of a global team with counterparts in Asia and Europe. On the church side of things, I'm an associate teaching pastor at our church, which is a highly multi-ethnic church. Also involved in a couple of, as an advisory board member of a couple social enterprises. I don't know if you remember Bill, Justin Bean.
Oh, yeah.
So Justin and I are very close. Justin graduated, I think, 2 years ago from Baki, and I sat in on his dissertation, and so very close with him, helping him with the work in the urban area of Grand Rapids. Married, 3 kids, 3 young adult kids, twin boys and a daughter who's soon to give birth to our first grandchild in 2 weeks. So,
all right.
That's me.
Fantastic. All right. Thanks. Well, let's see. Our academic dean is with us, Dr. Martine. Why don't you give a greeting, Martine, if you would, since you're with us for a few minutes?
Okay. Thank you. Greetings to you all, and it's a pleasure to see most of you familiar faces. I'm calling from France, and I think you know me. Most of you know me. I'm living there to serve my father, who is aging, and my husband is American. And my oldest son is Haitian, but Haitian American, and he's doing his MBA with BGU now. And my youngest son is 11 and from Niger, West Africa, and keeps us up on our toes and young and energetic. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this class, and it's one of the classes I really like usually because all of your bright ideas and creativity comes out in numerous ways, and it's just fun to watch you move on with this class. So thank you, Bill and Claire, for leading this class, and bon courage, as we say in French, take courage. It's a journey, but it's a good one. Thank you, Bill.
All right, merci.
Je vous en prie.
Jacqueline, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Morning, everybody. My apologies. I thought this was midday for me. The good thing I checked in online early. Anyway, I'm from Jamaica. I think most of you should know us by now. We're with a dot in this world, but a very nice dot. So I run Make Your Mark Consultants. So we do business development and youth development here in Jamaica. I have three children, 2 sons, 32, 27, and I have a 17-year-old daughter. Can I say this journey has been good for me, has opened my eyes to so many things, and I'm far more appreciative. So I think my calling is to look at families and young men, and so in Jamaica. So I look forward to this because this program so far has given me a lot of thought and direction. Thank you, everybody. I look forward to working with you, and I'm sure it's going to be good.
All right. Thank you, Jacqueline. My connection just jumped out for a moment, but if it ever does that, just continue on. Jeremy, did we get to you?
Not yet.
Go ahead.
All right. I'm Jeremy Main. My family and I have lived in St. Louis, Missouri in the U.S. for almost 15 years now. I've also been married to Trish it'll be 15 years next month. Got that coming up. We have 3 kids, 10, 8, and 5. And my oldest is fond of telling us that in 8 years, everyone is going to consider her an adult. So she's trying to prepare us now for however she wants to play that card for us. She's priming us early. So smart. She's smart. I serve as the director of field education at Covenant Theological Seminary here in St. Louis. That means I get to help oversee all of our external relationships with churches and ministries and the students who need to fulfill supervised ministry experience as a part of their degree program. We help connect them with different ministries and opportunities to get that experience. So it's a unique 1 foot in the academy, 1 foot out in the city type of position that I love. Naturally curious, so I like having a foot in multiple different places. I also teach at the seminary in educational ministries, city ministry, and community development. So I rotate through some courses there. I'm excited for the class. I think it terrifies me and excites me because I'm naturally curious. So I want to keep exploring all kinds of different things, but this is a class that says focus. And that's going to both be a challenge and an exciting thing for me because it's a growth edge. It's a way I need to grow in my own decision making, and I'm excited for the process. So,
all right, thanks, Jeremy. Yeah, that is the process. Yeah, trying to focus. There are so many issues in the world that we want to tackle, but that's the name of the game here. Is we've got to focus on a narrow topic that we can give some good thought to and work. Arissa, I think you just joined us from Rwanda. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm sorry I came in late. I was trying to find the link I'm sorry. So I'm Erisa Mutabazi. I live in Rwanda. I'm Rwandese. Rwanda is East Africa. Yeah, I'm married to Mary, 28 years this coming April. We have 5 children, 1 boy and 4 girls. One of the girls was adopted only last year, so we are still growing. I am a minister in the Anglican Church. Well, part of my history is I was born and raised in Uganda as a refugee. And so had my education and I got ordained in the Anglican Church of Uganda and moved to Rwanda after the 1994 genocide. And I've been in Rwanda since then. So I now serve with the Anglican Church in Rwanda. I also serve with Hope International. Hope International is a Christian micro enterprise organization based in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I have been a country director here in Rwanda for almost 6 years, since 2012. And then from then, I was given a regional role. So I oversee Hope's ministry in Africa. And so that is a brief summary of who I am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Arisa. Let me introduce my cohort in teaching, Dr. Henry. Why don't you just say a few words to introduce yourself, Dr. Henry?
Good day and welcome to this class. It's my pleasure to work with Dr. Payne and to guide you through the process of doing research. I especially enjoy the process, though, as some of you have hinted, it can become a frustrating experience. Nevertheless, you will come out the better for having done it. That I can assure you. But in the process, there will be challenges. I live in New York City, and most of my family members live here with me, so I have a very big and strong support group here in the city. I'm actively involved in my local church, especially in the educational ministry and in leadership development. My background includes having worked in the student ministry, InterVarsity, Interschool Christian Fellowship in Guyana, and I've taught at Christian colleges and at secular schools, both here in the US and in Jamaica. So that is a brief review of who I am, and I look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Henry. And I, of course, am Bill Payne. I've been with the school since its inception in 1989, 1990, when we started the school with 11 students in a little classroom of a church over in Kirkland, Washington. And my main background has been a pastor most of my life, but I've also been an academician. So I've worked both my feet in the pastoral world and in the academic world. Research is not my first discipline. I've had to learn a lot about research from my colleagues, but it's good skills to know when we are working in various, whether they're communities or organizations, having good research skills to know how to get at information, how to get at an understanding of what's going on in terms of people and their perceptions. Those are all great skills if we're going to be working in this world for the Lord, where we work with people. And so I really encourage you to try to get out all you can. I know this course moves very quickly. You only have 9 weeks. We have to pack a lot into that time. But hopefully, even as you leave this course, you'll keep learning. You'll have books. We've got 2 other places, Populi courses. When you enter in your dissertation process, we have a 2-part course. Right now, it's mainly a place where you upload chapters from your dissertations, but my hope is that we can continue to work with those 2 courses and begin to bring in some other content so that you can continue to learn. And we're also looking at making a few more video sessions where you can gain some wisdom and knowledge through a video medium. So anyway, I live in Idaho right now in the United States. Lived in Kirkland, Washington for, Seattle area for 20 years when we started the school, but I've came up this direction to be closer to my kids and my grandkids. We now live out in the middle of a hayfield, which is very different from when I was in Seattle, but we're in a very rural area now, but enjoying it quite a bit. I have two grown kids, and they are, one is in this area and then another one is still down in the Seattle area. So again, thank you for making the time to be with us. We will be having a Zoom room every week at this time where we can talk about what's been going on in the week. We can introduce you to some of the concepts verbally that are for the week. We can discuss and work through some of those issues to hopefully get a better understanding as we are trying to get through this research process. Any questions before I kind of move into a few other issues here?
I'm just wondering, thank you so much for that introduction. I'm wondering, you talked about this time every week. I'm wondering whether there's the option of moving 1 hour later. I mean, I don't want to push if others feel otherwise, but 1 hour later would be better for me.
That's an option for me, but I'm not sure what others are doing at this point. Right now it's 8 o'clock in the morning for me is when this class starts here in Idaho, but I don't know. Let me have other input on that issue.
How long is the class?
We try to hold the class to about an hour, maybe an hour and 15, but we don't want to go any more than an hour and 15 minutes total.
1 hour later will not be good for me because today is my service day. I'm supposed to be in church teaching Bible study by 5:30 at my time. So if we shift it 1 hour later, I might start the class, but leave the class before the class is over. That is okay.
Okay. All right. Let's see. What time does your class start?
My service?
Yeah.
Yeah, Nigerian time 5:30. That is an hour from now.
Okay, so you would be starting at, right now it's 8:30 here in the morning, so you're 5:30 in the evening. And so your class starts at 8:30 my time, I think. Is that right?
No, 9:30. 9:30 your time.
Oh, 9:30 my time. Okay. Yeah, even if we moved this up a half hour, that would still probably cut into your class a little bit, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's my class. It's my church service. My church service is that time.
Okay. All right. And tell me what's your issue, Arissa, there?
Okay, I said I'll be having my church service by that 9:30 your time.
I'm sorry, I'm getting my names mixed up here. It'll take me a while. Let me stop sharing for a moment so I can see everybody. Okay, let's see. Who was asking that we move the class back an hour? Was that you, Tammy?
That was me. That was Arissa.
Arissa.
Oh, Arissa.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. I thought we had two issues going on here. Okay.
Right. But I mean, if it's not okay with everybody, I'll try to do this time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's leave it as it is for now. If you have to leave early, the session is recorded, and you can always pick up, any other things you missed. So the session will be recorded every week. All right.
Did I miss Kevin introducing himself?
You may have. Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to keep going just because of a time factor. But yeah. Kevin, I think you did introduce yourself, didn't you? Okay. He was shaking his head yes. All right. Let me just make a couple of introductory remarks, and then we just need to kind of get into the content. You can see the screen. I just want to go over a few points here. You had some pre-reading to be doing for this course. I hope that you can get that accomplished, because what that does, it gives you an overview of a lot of the research processes. And then hopefully each week you will have already read some of that material, and it will be reviewed for you, so you can spend the majority of your time working on the proposal section for that week. For these first 2 weeks, you're going to be involved in doing some literature analysis, which I'll have Dr. Henry talk about in just a minute. And then you'll have weekly reading, of course, that you'll be involved in. You have a weekly discussion. There's a grading criteria for discussions that I really would like to make sure that you've looked at, which is over on the info page. Take a look at that just so you know what we are grading on in terms of the discussions each week. Also, there's a template for the proposal development. You'll find that also under the files area on the info page. I really do need you to use that template. The idea is to fill in the next section of the template each week, and then upload the whole template, so that Dr. Henry and I can be looking at your whole proposal each week, making sure that everything is fitting together as you add sections. You'll then, you'll participate in these Zoom rooms every week. The final product for this course is a final project proposal, and I call it a draft because it's not necessarily completed even when you finish this course. That'll be due June 16th, as indicated in the syllabus. After you complete that proposal at this class and get a grade and have comments from Dr. Henry and myself, then you will be looking at that proposal with whoever your supervisor, your dissertation supervisor turns out to be, who then may have some recommendations for your proposal. Once you and your supervisor have completed that proposal to the satisfaction of both of you, then you will submit it to the academic cabinet through the BGU registrar, who will be Bridget Harris, I think, by that time. She's right now working with our current registrar, Judy Melton, and Bridget has just come on, and so she'll be working with us in terms of a lot of issues, including some of the dissertation process. So that's kind of in a nutshell, what the process will look like, and you'll learn more about each of those pieces probably as we go along. What I want to spend time today doing, I want Dr. Henry just to make a few comments on the assignment for this week, just about research articles. What is empirical research? What are empirical research articles, which is what we want you to kind of focus on right now. That doesn't mean there aren't other kinds of literature that will also be helpful to your project, but right now you're going to focus on some empirical research. And then I'm going to make a few more comments about APA formatting, since that causes a lot of problems for students, and that's the main required format now. If you are a DMin student, you have the option to do Turabian, but I really prefer, if at all possible, for you to learn APA, because APA is kind of a standard through a lot of the psychological, sociological disciplines and business where many of you are often possibly working. So Dr. Henry, let me give the platform to you for a bit and just kind of say a few words about what we're doing in terms of literature analysis, empirical research.
I would like to put that in the context of focusing on what is research. And I am doing that conscious of the fact that the term research is used often, but sometimes very loosely. But we are in a research class, and so we have to be very focused on what is research and how that impacts the process of this class. Merriam-Webster defines research as a careful study and investigation for the purpose of discovering and explaining new knowledge. That's pretty packed. Careful investigation, discovery, explanation. Those are 4 key concepts embedded in a class like this. The second definition is that research is a systematic investigation as well as the study of sources of material things. Note that phrase, study of sources, so that the facts can be established or the conclusion drawn. It is about finding the truth through experiment or investigation using, and here I want to emphasize, the scientific method. So those 2 definitions are important for us to keep in mind as we go through this class. I usually say to students, this class is different and it's frustrating because we come to it with some preconceived ideas of how you go through a class. And one of the preconceived ideas that turns out to be very frustrating is that when you have an assignment to do, you do it, it's done, and you get a grade. Now, the first thing you'll notice about this class is that you're going to be rewriting. You're going to be doing drafts. And that is a key component of what it means to document your research. It's never going to be that at your first writing, you have it all together. And so be prepared to do the rewrite. The rewrite doesn't mean that you're any less than or you don't know. It's just part of the process. And again, I want to emphasize the word process. I'm glad that Jeremy mentioned the issue of focus. Because one of the biggest challenges of a class like this is to get you to focus. Research for some people is maddening because when you think of the world out there and all the knowledge out there, how is it going to be that you're just going to look at one little something and spend so much time looking at just a minute aspect of a concept, etc.? But that is the thing about research, because we can't study it all at once. We don't have the time to do it all at once. So we have to be able to focus. And for some people, that takes very long. But if you're going to succeed in the process, you want to focus. It doesn't mean that you're going to abort the time that you need to process the information, to understand it, so that when you write with understanding. And that brings us to the other challenge, because research means nothing if it's not written, if it's not documented. So yes, you may have some good ideas, you may ask skillful questions, good questions about the issue. But having done all of that, you have to put it on paper. And putting it on paper can be a challenge because it's research, because there is a language to research. And for those of us who are literary, who like to write stories, for those of us who are preachers, and you know, preachers can be long-winded, research writing is the opposite to preaching. You have to stick to the point, be concise, say what you need to say, and move on. There is no room for literary illustrations, for parables, for stories, etc. It is dry writing. And for some people, report writing is frustrating because they're literary and they're poetic and they want to go off into flowery language. No, research demands conciseness. You state what you want to state the truth as is or as you've observed it, and move on. And so you're going to find it is frustrating to have the drafts go back and forth and you look at it and you say, but you didn't tell me about this before. No, you didn't. Because as you read the research report, one of the first things you want to do is get to the content. So oftentimes you definitely have to ignore style and grammar, etc., to be able to get to the content that the student is seeking to present. As a reader of your work, the last thing I do is edit it, and I don't particularly enjoy having to edit work because it interferes with my getting to understand what you want to do. So one of the recommendations I would like to make to you is get some editing software that you use when you write your drafts. There are many of them out there. Either that or, and that is a tall order, if you have a committed family member or member of your PLC who would be willing to read and edit your work. You will get feedback on the need for that as we go along. Research is an investigative process. You are going to come to it with ideas. You have to. There are issues that you have observed, whether it's on the job, in the organization that you're involved in the local church. You've observed these issues. And so now you feel you have an opportunity to write about them, test them, investigate. But the investigation piece is important because it's an investigative process. There is a step-by-step approach that you take to research. And the first step, which we are starting with in this first week, is to what I call do your reading. Do your reading. And you have to be selective in terms of what you read. The research focus guides you in terms of your choice of what you read. But in addition to that, when we are doing research, we are testing, evaluating, creating empirical evidence. And so the focus of your study has to be on theories and concepts. There's just so much out there in terms of writing. Let's say if you wanted to do a study on justice, the concept of justice is a very powerful one. It's broad, and there are theories that explain the concept of justice. In the context of the church, there is a clear biblical definition of justice. When we talk research, we want to measure and we want to test theories. So what we want to do in terms of reading, we don't just want to read people's opinion about justice, and they are relevant, but we want to read about the evidence of justice. What motivates people to act justly? What are the sources that people come with when they preach and teach justice? So you're definitely going to need to look at empirical material on justice. And I deliberately choose justice because justice is a commonplace theme. And so I say focus on the empirical studies on justice. Where do we find most empirical studies? In the journals, in the academic journals. So if you are going to read about justice, when you find a source, and I recommend you use Google Scholar or ProQuest or EBSCO to do your search, but look to see if the article that is that comes to your attention is one that is published in a journal. And that will be a key as to whether or not you should read it, spend time reading it. And I want to say too, as I mentioned the issue of reading, research demands that you read widely and selectively. You need to do both, because, and you have to come into the course being prepared for this. You haven't done this in any other class, like you're going to do it in this class. You're going to do a lot of reading. You're going to read until your eyeballs drop out, I say, or you fall asleep in the reading. However, the part that is challenging is that you're going to have to read much more than you will actually use, because you have to be selective. So don't come to it expecting that, okay, I've read these 10 articles, so I have to use them all. You will use them if they are relevant to the issue at hand. But in order to get to the issue at hand, you're going to have to read widely and be prepared to know that you're going to read much more than you're going to use. That, I think, is one of the most difficult parts of being in a research class, because you have not been asked to do this much reading in any other course. Now, for the proposal, you need to be able to document at least 30 sources in the first draft. That's the one that we will review and say whether or not you can go forward. But when you come to do the actual dissertation, I like to recommend to students, and I'm not sure if I'm doing this BGU, but I like to think that you should have at least 50 sources. Why do I say that? You know, when you start searching for the documented research evidence of whatever concept it is that you want to study, it's going to be amazing, the thousands of documented evidence that is out there. So then for you to just use 50, you realize you're just scratching the surface. Now, you are going to find, as you read the research literature, some of it will be repetitive, and that is true, because there are scholars who set the pace for the field, and their writing usually attracts more writing and research. So in some cases, if you're reading well, you're going to start seeing, oh, I've read this before, and you probably have. Somebody else has done that study. Nevertheless, you have to be ready to read as widely as possible. Be selective, so that when people challenge you on your research, you have it at your fingertip, as it were, to explain why you have used the approach that you have used to the study, why you've asked the kinds of questions you have asked, etc. The other thing that I want to say to you is I'm sure you've all come to the class with some research ideas. Be prepared to sometimes abandon the passion that you come with. We've just had a class where one student came in pretty certain of the topic that she would study and spent a lot of time honing it in terms of reading, etc. And towards the end of the course, she said, no, that's not what I should do. And that's okay. And so she's, as it were, starting over. That happens. We want to advise and help you so that happens earlier on in the process of the course. Nevertheless, it does happen. The only thing is, if it took 9 weeks to get to the place where you need to do the revision or do a completely different topic, it might take another 9 weeks before you actually write the new proposal. That is part of the process. Don't beat up on yourself if that happens, but we want to work with you to make sure that you get the kind of focus that is realistic, that you have a passion for, that the time that you're going to expend on the study is going to be worth your while process. I mentioned writing style. I mentioned the fact that, among other things, research report demands conciseness, avoid wordiness, preaching, storytelling, etc. I want to talk about the transformational aspect of BGU's research. The transformational component to research is unique, I would say, to BGU, and it's a good thing. However, what I have found is that sometimes students come in more focused on the transformation that they think, and notice I say think, and I'm going to explain why I say think. Focus on the transformation that they think they would bring rather than being focused on the actual research itself. Now, I said earlier, and we're going to have a whole session where we're going to talk more about concepts and theories, etc. But just by way of introduction, the foundation of the research that you will be doing is theoretical and conceptually based. No argument on that. Now, with that foundation, you have to be prepared to know that the most important aspect of your study has to be the actual research. It is as a result of the research findings that you will develop the transformational approach. I just want to say that as I've listened to students talk about transformation and they've talked about proposed transformation, I think I often hear a misconception about what entails transformation. Like research, transformation is a process. So the most you would be able to do realistically coming out of your research is to propose a plan towards transformation. I would be remiss if I told you that your research is going to lead to transformation, because transformation is like your research. It's a process. Your research may encourage people to start thinking transformationally, but transformation is more than thinking. It's a process that results in action. It's a process that results in change, tangible, observable change. That doesn't happen with one research report. That is not to dampen your interest and enthusiasm and concern to see transformation. It is to just get you to start thinking more realistically about the transformational aspect of your research. And then in closing, I would say that the act of doing research is challenging in several areas. It's challenging in the area of your intellect, how you think, how you reason, what kind of thinker you are. It's challenging in the area of competence, and all of us here have demonstrated competence in terms of who we are, the kind of jobs we have, etc. But somehow, when you do research, there are times when you feel like, I really don't know anything, or I don't know as much as I thought I knew. And that can be frustrating. It happens to all of us. It challenges you in the area of your competence. Doesn't mean that you're incompetent, doesn't mean that you're any less than, but because you're dealing with a new area, because you're dealing with concepts and theories, etc., you are going to be challenged in that area. It also challenges us in our area of faith and trust in others, because research, though you are the one doing the research, you are going to be depending on others. You're going to have to get people to cooperate with you to participate in your research. You're going to have to get people who will be willing to answer your survey if you use questionnaires, if you use interviews. Interviews are easier to nail down because an interview is one-on-one, either by phone or face-to-face. When you send out questionnaires, you always have to send out much more than you will receive back. And that takes time, that takes work. And when you do a questionnaire and you send it out, you have to send out reminders so that people will send it back to you. And that really tests your faith and your trust in people and take people's word for it. But what you have to recognize is that you are asking people to participate with you in something that you are passionate about. They're not necessarily passionate about it. They are doing you a favor to respond to your questionnaire, to say yes to doing the interview. But the reality is that you have to be prepared to get yes and no and yes from people who may commit to be a part of it and then for some reason decide, oh, I can't be bothered. It's part of the process. And I am sharing this with you, not to frustrate you, but to have you come into the course with eyes wide open as possible. But to end by saying that having presented to you the challenges of research, to say with confidence that you are all capable of completing this process, and we look forward to working with you in this manner. Dr. Payne, back to you.
Okay, yeah, I was looking for my microphone button there. Thank you, Dr. Henry. Yeah, those are good thoughts. And again, we will get into the research methodology in much more detail in the coming weeks, but I think you just try to introduce some of those thoughts to you right now. And as Dr. Henry has said, you may change your topic, and that's fine. I'm just going to emphasize a couple things. The idea of going into a project with a transformational strategy in mind. It's fine to have that in mind, but be willing to change. I remember just a couple of examples. We had one student who was working with teen pregnancy, I think, in a particular area, wanted to do, a lot of TV or radio kinds of ads. He may still do that, but trying to see is that the best way to talk to teens, for example. The research may show that no, not that many teens are watching that program. That's not going to be the best transformational strategy to begin to deal with teen pregnancy. May test some small groups to see how those work, and talk to teens to understand how they think, what they watch, what kind of activities they're involved in. So those would be the ideal places to begin to bring some transformation, as opposed to what maybe he went into that project with an idea of just doing a lot of major TV campaigns, but that may not be the way to bring transformation. Just one example of when we're trying to understand how does transformation grow out of research. Somebody wants to do a seminar. We've all done hundreds of seminars, but to know the right kinds of content, the right kinds of questions, the right kinds of curriculum to put into a seminar is going to depend on the research, how people are thinking, what they need to hear, what needs to change in their thinking. Those kinds of issues must be understood through some systematic research process. And we will talk more about that as we get into that. Any questions on that before I just take a few more minutes to go over a few APA issues?
Bill, just a quick question. It's more about our assignment for this week.
Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
So yeah, it's clear what you're asking us to do, find 2 research articles, empirical research articles or journals. Where do you want us to document? Is this like a Word document you want us to put this together on and then just upload to the Populi? I'm trying to understand the format of where do I place this and how long are you looking for? What is...
Yeah, for this week, and we may do the same thing next week, maybe a little altered. You can just use a Word document. There's a little template. I think it's called research reading /notes that Dr. Henry had put in the info area that I put, something that she put to develop, that you could use as a template just to look at the articles. It kind of helps you analyze what do you think the problem statement was that this particular article was addressing. What's the author's purpose? What would you say are the research questions if they haven't been asked directly? And what are the results? Is there what we call a theoretical framework that you see as foundational to that particular report? And what principles, approaches, models that were being used in a particular study. But yeah, there is a template, so just put it into a Word document. You're not going to have your paper. That's probably not going to be more than 1 or 2 pages max. We're just trying to get you into the practice of looking at an article and knowing what to look for. Okay, and say, I really want you to be looking for a lot of articles, but I want you to just take 2 of them to try to analyze them using the process that we've suggested in the assignment for the week. But yeah, for these next 2 weeks, this week and next week, we really need you to spend a lot of time looking for articles, looking for literature that is going to somehow be related to your topic. You should start, forming, find a way to even just put it into a Word document. You just start making a list of topic articles, journal articles, whatever they happen to be. We really suggest right now focus on journal articles. Places that you're going to find literature. If you even look back at your BGU courses, you're going to have a lot of textbooks that you've used in those courses. Those will be sources, but we're not right now for these two analytical approaches. We're asking you to look at empirical studies. The textbooks that you use aren't necessarily empirical studies. They may contain some reference to empirical studies, but the idea is to learn how to look at an empirical study report and try to begin to think systematically about it, asking those right questions. And that's what that little template on research reading notes document is under the files area on the info page.
And I would like to add, in the info section, there's also an article that is titled How to Read a Research Article. Mm-hmm. And I recommend that you read that as soon as possible. One of the things that is frustrating about reading research is we tend to try to approach research reading like if you're reading a novel, etc. No, you don't have to read the whole article at one sitting. In fact, but if you try to do that, by the time you're halfway, you forget what was before. Mm-hmm. And you're wondering, do I have the time to read what comes after? Read it in sections. And the outline helps you to do that, because one of the first things you want to be clear about is what is the purpose of this research? Mm-hmm. What is the theoretical, what are the theories or the theoretical foundations upon which this research was built? And usually in a good research article, the writer would identify not just the theory, but the theorist whose work is being used through his or her research. What are the research questions? What are the hypotheses if it's a quantitative study? If it's a qualitative study, they're going to talk about interviews, etc., and then they're going to talk about emerging themes from the study. What methodology was used? What was the sample size? Meaning how many people responded to the study or participated in the study? How did they select the people who participated in the study? What were the results of the study? Were the research questions answered? Were they answered with satisfaction? And in some instances, if it's a qualitative study, the writer may propose a theory or theories that could be tested as a result of the findings of that study. So those are some key terms, research language issues that you want to pay attention to when you read the research article. And this is documented for you online, so you can go and find the information in the info section.
Hey, Dr. Henley, I'm sorry if I missed this, and if I'm asking a not so good question, but looking at the week one, the assignment for week one, or the plan for week one, I looking at under under lesson tab, I see week one discussion question. Am I reading that right? I see under the links, I see week one discussion, which talks about the research topic. Am I missing something, or that is the assignment for this week? And
that is the assignment for this week.
All right, and is that going to be the framework for all the weeks? Because I've seen this change from course to course. Is there going to be one assignment each week, or? Let
me clarify that one moment, Rissa.
Yes.
You're generally going to have 2 assignments each week. I mean, in addition to the reading. You're going to have a written assignment of some type that you're going to upload to the assignment page, okay?
Right.
And you're going to be involved in a discussion each week. So there's basically 2 components each week. You're doing a discussion with your classmates here, and that will be uploaded. And then you'll have some type of a written assignment. For this week, the written assignment is these two writing assignments, two 1 or 2 page reports on analyzing empirical research. And then you also, for this week, there's actually 2 discussion boards. One is called Getting to Know You, just where you introduce yourself, and then the other is discussion for week 1, and there's a topic there for you to discuss, upload.
All right, for week 1 discussion and Getting to Know You are the assignments for this week. And then discussion.
And then the written assignment, which you should find under the assignment page. As you look at it, I don't have the Populi screen up, but when you look at the right side of the screen, you'll have tabs. I think the first one is called assignments, the second one is called discussion, the third one is called links. Under the assignment, what happens under the assignment, because the discussion is a graded assignment, it appears under the assignment as a discussion. It also then appears under the discussion tab as a discussion, so it appears 2 places. But yeah, you're going to do the discussion, and then you're also going to do a written assignment.
On the written assignment, I'm sorry, that's what I'm missing. Where is the written assignment? I see the discussion.
There should be. I'm going to just bring up let me go ahead and just bring up Populi here for a moment so we make sure that, I want to make sure that's on there, because it should be anyway. Yeah, there should be a, let me just bring that up a second, just so we're all, what we'll do, I think we'll probably go over some of the APA stuff next week, because you won't necessarily need to have it as you're analyzing the 2 reports. So I don't think I'll go into that this week. But
yeah, and I'm okay to discuss this separately if everybody else is okay.
Yeah, I do want to make sure that everybody is on the same page, is doing, knowing what we're doing here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and, let's see, share my screen. Okay, I'm going to take that one down. One second here. Got too many screens going on here at the same time. Okay, if I share that screen. Okay. You should be seeing my Populi. If we go into week 1, called Search for the Topic. Okay, we got the welcome. Over here on the right side, these are the tabs, assignments, discussions. Under the assignment tab, like I say, what I was telling you a minute ago, the term week 1 discussion will appear both places. It's because when they do a graded assignment, we as instructors have to, grade the assignment, so there's a page to do that, but then there's the actual discussion, which you can get at here just by under discussion and click that. So if I click that, week 1 discussion, it takes me over here to a discussion board. And you've been there, and you've got the discussion. Okay, so that's one assignment. The other assignment, if I go into the assignments, and I go to the week 1 topic and research, let's see what we get there. Okay, here is the written assignment. Identify the general topic you plan to explore, then begin to search for sources that you can support. There are at least, and then it talks about this whole thing. For the assignment this week, please focus on empirical research studies where you can find the problem and purpose statement as well as the research question, etc. So that's the written assignment that you would upload, these 2 reports, 1 or 2 page reports on analyzing some empirical research. Okay, so we've basically got the two, and that's going to be pretty typical each week. You're going to have something under this assignment that'll say week 1 assignment something, and then there'll be under the discussion, there'll be a discussion forum that you'll participate in. And then if there's any links that we need you to look at, like for this one, I want you to look at the library skills video so that it gives good content. Our librarian Jennifer has given a good video on using the BGU online library and how to access databases, etc., that you would be using even for these reports. Meet your class, that was a link. And this was the session for today. The week 1 link for today's Zoom room is there. Once we complete this session, I will post a link under links that'll actually be the video of this session that we've done. So assignments, the written assignment, under discussion will be the discussion, and any links that we'd like you to be able to get to will be on this lesson page each week, and that's the same each week. Like I say, first page you've got all these various ones. Next week you'll be continue to work on this, and so that's kind of the logistics of that Populi site.
Right. Okay, thank you so much. That's helpful.
Okay. What I think we will do, let me just make sure we have something called the info page here, and there's all kinds of information on this info page. You always get to the different parts of the Populi over here on the left. There's this menu, and so I just hit the info page. It brought me over here. The reading books are here. Optional books are there. I need to make sure that those have been updated. I'm not sure those have been updated since the online team clones this class each semester, and we have to go in and change things. I'm not sure I got all that changed. But under the files area, you've got the syllabi, RS1, which is the, if you're a DMin student, RS 702 is the syllabus. They're basically identical syllabi. We just have to have different numbers for course purposes. The final project handbook, which again, I think I emailed you. I am working on updating that draft because our academic cabinet will be voting on an updated version. So probably don't pay too much attention to this particular handbook right now, since the updated version is coming this week. It's all kinds of stuff here that you could take a look at. What I was going to go over, this called 22 Tips from the Tech Reader. I'd really like you to make sure you look at that document, because there are all kinds of writing issues there that need to be addressed. I'll probably go over those next week a little bit, just so I make sure everybody's looked at that. I added another one called an APA sample paper, and I've just highlighted some items on there that I want us to look at. And I think we'll look at those next week, but if you want to take a look at that might be helpful, okay? Well, I think we'll just look at both of those next week, but I'm just showing you that these are all, some of these important kinds of files are listed on the info page under these different categories, okay? So just kind of get familiar with the course site as you're trying to find things here. All right, with that, I think we will close down. Like I said, I don't really want these sessions to go more than an hour and 15 minutes tops, so to be respective of your schedules. So I think with that, do be participating in the discussion boards. That's a good, that's a good place where you interact with students, and we will try to put comments in there too. Dr. Henry and I are trying to divide up the labor for this course. I think Dr. Henry will probably be looking at those discussions and giving the grade for each week. And like I say, make sure, again, over here on the info tab, there is a, what's it called here? Grading criteria discussions. Yeah, you should take a look at that so you'll know what we are grading on in terms of the criteria for a discussion. Okay.
Dr. Payne, can I ask a quick question?
Go ahead.
When is the discussion, well, actually two, what day of the week do you want us to have entered our discussion answers into that forum by?
If at all possible, I'd like, your first response, when you give your initial response to the discussion, would be good if you can get that on the board by Wednesday, by say midnight on Wednesday. So then everybody has a chance to see each other's discussions by Thursday, Friday, Saturday, because on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I'd like you to respond to at least 2 other students. And so, yeah, so we can get the first response on by the middle of the week, by Wednesday, and then get your responses to other students on by the end of the week, by midnight on Saturday. If you can get them on before, that'd be great, because then you can kind of, talk back and forth.
That's okay. That said, can we open up I know that in the past courses, they don't open that week until Sunday midnight, which is such a short window to respond by Wednesday for those of us who are up. I mean, all the bulk of my week's work is on Monday. So can we open that portal on Friday midnight or something, so we can have that prior weekend to read and prepare and get our answers uploaded?
Yeah, if that works, I'll go ahead and make sure each one of those open by Friday at midnight. Then you'll have Saturday, Sunday.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. The idea, the way it's set up right now, is to make sure you've finished all the work for one week before you start working on the work for another week. But that's fine. I can go ahead and just make sure that those are open. The one thing I don't want you to do is trying to go back and make up discussions, because once a week has passed, it's kind of meaningless to go back in, because you pretty much, if you've not been able to do that, you're going to probably have to accept a 0 for that week, or make special arrangements to Dr. Henry or I to submit a paragraph or something to even get some partial credit for the discussion for that week. But the whole purpose of a discussion is to enter into a discussion with people on that particular week. Yeah, I'll make sure that we get those open by Friday midnight, if that works for everybody, for the following week.
Just one quick question, Doctor.
Go ahead.
Where are we posting our proposed topic? Where are we submitting the topic?
Okay, when you go to on that tabs, I was showing those tabs. When you click on the assignment tab, and it'll say written assignment for week 1 or something like that. When you click on that link, then you should have a page where you can upload documents. I think that's the way the student, my faculty page looks a little different than a student page, but you should have then a page there where you can upload your documents. And in this case, you would have a Microsoft Word document that you would upload into the course.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and close down the session. Again, thanks.
Dr. Payne?
Go ahead, one more time.
Yeah, Dr. Payne, I just sent an email to you. This next week will be difficult. I'm traveling and limited internet, so I just sent an email. To excuse myself. I may not meet the timelines, but I definitely catch up when I'm back.
Okay. Yeah, let me just make one comment on that. If someone needs to miss a session, and I understand we've all got very busy schedules, you need to watch the video, which will always be posted. I always try to get the video posted within a few hours of when we had the session. You need to watch the video, and then you need to send me a paragraph summarizing the highlights for you of that session. What kind of ideas, thoughts you received from that session? Just a paragraph, but that way I can give you credit for the Zoom room, even if you were not there, because I'll know you've watched the video, and then you can write a paragraph.
Dr. Payne?
Yes.
Is it possible, well, I suppose it's acceptable to email both yourself and Dr. Henry on any issues, any queries or so?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I think our emails are posted there on the site. We each have a virtual office too. You can go into those, and I think it gives you access to our email, etc.
Okay.
All right. Thank you again for being with us. I'm going to go ahead and end the session, and we will continue next week, same time, same place. And we'll kind of go into some APA, and we'll just see how you were doing on analyzing your articles. And we'll talk maybe a little more about research and research articles and procedures that are used in articles, etc. All right, let me just see. There was a chat here. Anything that we need to know? Okay, okay, everybody's all right. Good. I'm going to wave goodbye. Recording will be on in a few hours. Bye now.
Goodbye.
Bye.